Hello.
Hey.
Hey, Laura.
Hey.
And Susan and Bob.
No.
And Becky.
You want to?
Hey, Laura.
I know it's got to be tough to be sitting through another Zoom today with the weather being as beautiful as it is. I'm sure we'd all rather be sitting out there in the sun absorbing.
Like Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully if we end not too late, we'll be able to take a quick walk before supper.
There you
I
go.
grabbed a walk this morning about 9:30, and I was surprised at how windy it was at the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was on my bicycle and it was very windy.
That would be annoying.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be able to find time after this to do some grilling tonight. Try to get back in that spring feel.
All right, well, it is 4 o'clock, and as other people decide that they can join us, I will certainly let them into the room. I'll kick us off. I'm gonna introduce myself, and then we'll just we'll go to Bob and then Rebecca and then whoever wants to jump in. But I'm Matthew Johnson. I work for the town of Jamestown. I'm the assistant town manager and planning director for the town, and I'll turn it over to Bob.
I'm Bob Gherkin. I am retired and a volunteer with AARP. I live over in Adams Farm, which is very, very neighborly, I hope. Been a resident since 1990, and retired, I guess, about 5 years now, and have found a tremendous reward in volunteering and focusing my volunteer time and energy on aging in place, whether we want to call it livable communities or whatever term you want to be, encompassing so many different areas and such a great need. So, but I'm here to assist. I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to share livable communities with you, and look forward to the opportunity of becoming one of your tools.
Great. I'm Rebecca Mann Raybourne. I'm the council liaison to this group, and I'm very excited that it's started up. It's been a bit of a long time coming, which we'll go into that later, but I was not born, but raised here, and have lived here in Jamestown pretty much all my life. In fact, I'm back in the house where I grew up. So I very much stayed in place. I was away for about 15 years going to school. And then when I got married, we lived in High Point for a little bit, but pretty much this has been my orbit, and have lived across the street from my parents and was some degree of caretaker for them for a bit. So definitely have always, had that interest, and, really like to see Jamestown being a very intergenerational place, and somewhere that I feel like everybody should feel welcome and safe living here. So that's kind of why I'm so excited about this committee, and thank you all for being here.
Anybody can go next. Introduce yourselves. Let us know who you are.
Okay, I'm Susan Joyner, and my parents moved here when I was in 2nd grade, and they still live here in Old Forestdale. My sister lives in Old Forestdale, and we live in Forestdale North. We moved back. My husband was in the Air Force for 8 years, and we moved back after that. So except for that, we've been in the area or in Jamestown. And I retired a year ago, December, right before the pandemic, from local government. So I'm looking for some things to do to get involved. And this is a passion I have. I talked to Rebecca about it before, how wonderful Jamestown is and how we want to stay here. My parents are now 80, and we want them to be comfortable staying here as long as possible too.
Hi, I'm Wid Painter. I have been living in Jamestown for about 35 years or so. We moved here from Ohio. I am a retired professor at High Point University. I taught chemistry and earth science there for like 20 some years. And I love this area. It's just gorgeous. I'm originally from New Jersey, of all places. You'll forgive me for that, I'm sure. But anyway, uh, my wife and I have two children. One is out in Denver, Colorado, and the other one is in Chapel Hill. And we love them both. And we love the area. So I'm excited to be involved with the committee. Thank you, Rebecca, for doing this. This is a great thing, I think, for the community. And I'm particularly interested in transportation area here. I'm a cyclist, and I've been to the town council meetings a couple times, and have supported bike lanes in the area. And that's certainly an interest of mine. So anyway, that's a little background for me. So I'm excited about this whole project. And thank you again, Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Laura Gollage. It seems like I might be one of the newer people to Jamestown, as I've only been here about 23 years. I have been a facilitator for Alzheimer's Association since 2014, when my mother died with Alzheimer's. And we started a support group for caregivers through the Alzheimer's Association and Jamestown United Methodist Church. From there, we also started up a memory cafe, which is more of a social engagement for both the caregiver and the person with the disease. Just an excuse to get away from all of the logistics of dealing with that. So I've had that experience more recently. Currently, I am the president of the Women's Club of Southwest Guilford, and also am on the Jamestown Pig Picking Committee. So I've got my fingers in several pots that are key to our community, and really am excited about some of the opportunities for us to age in place and make our community a place where seniors want to be. So I'm real excited about the potential we have. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pam Burgess, and I have been living in Jamestown for 22 years, and I am originally from New Jersey, and moved here in 1998. My husband was actually transferred here via work, and we have been in Jamestown the entire time. Love Jamestown so much. My day job is in financial. My love is community and volunteering in the community. So I look so forward to moving forward and seeing what we could do for our community as it relates to this, and just very excited to be a part of this committee. And thank you also, Rebecca.
Great. Who else? I know we have a couple of folks here, iPhone and iPad. If you just want to introduce yourselves and say who you are, where you're from, we'd appreciate it.
Matthew, this is Tom Turvo. I joined late because I didn't have a Zoom app on my on this iPad. Anyway, for all of the listeners, I've lived in Jamestown 21 years. I'm kind of a gadfly at the town council meetings. Love Jamestown very much. Retired about 10 years ago, and I don't know what else you'd like to know. I'm looking forward to participating in this committee.
Good to see you, Tom.
And you, Matthew.
And I think Dee, if you would want to unmute and introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Matthew. I appreciate the opportunity to serve the community that I have lived in since I was 18 months old. I am disabled, although I don't act it. My mother is disabled. I am her caregiver. I have participated in fundraisers for various causes, for paraplegics to get treatment. I've done silent auctions. I've hosted golfing events to raise money. I guess the biggest thing is I do want to see everything that we can possibly do to make Jamestown cradle to grave and so much more better. That's the best phrase that I can think of right now. And again, thank you. And I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Dee. I'm going to go ahead and let Rebecca give us an overview of what's been going on in the background to get us to this point. So, Rebecca, the floor is yours.
Sure, thanks. I'll just do kind of a brief overview, and I know that a lot of you have heard bits and parts of this and lived some of it, especially these past few months. But basically, the idea behind Jamestown being involved in this started back, I guess, November 2019. Sherry Richmond, who's on the planning board, and I attended the statewide AARP conference in Winston-Salem that was focused on building or the age-friendly communities network. And so we went, it sounded interesting. We went to that. We had heard about it from the Retire NC listserv. So actually Jamestown is a certified retirement community by Retire North Carolina. We're grouped in with High Point. So a lot of times High Point gets the glory for this, but we know it's really all Jamestown. But anyway, so we're on this listserv for it, and they sent out information. They sent out information about this interesting sounding AARP conference happening in Winston. And so we went and we learned more about this age-friendly communities initiative, and just the fact that it's nationwide. There are several municipalities and some counties, I believe, in North Carolina, and Bob's gonna, I'm sure, tell us more about that, that are have already been designated age-friendly. And it just seemed like it was very interesting, but then at the same time, we were in these workshops hearing about things that communities were doing, and it's a lot of stuff that Jamestown is already doing. I think that by having the advantage of having an older population in town, we're already kind of in that mindset. And so when things like the Parks Committee meet, or when the Parks Strategic Plan was going on, and we were focused so much on how can we upgrade our facilities, or what do we want to see in the future, or when the comprehensive plan, when folks are talking about what do we want in our comp plan, how do we see the future of Jamestown, we're already factoring in aging in place, and we're already factoring in the importance of having things like sidewalks and making things walkable and making places accessible. So it was kind of this was exciting to see this conference going on, because we saw where we would want to be in these new ideas, but also half of we're already doing a lot of this, and this would be a great way to kind of get credit for what's already going on in Jamestown, and also help guide us in the future when we're making more of these plans. So from there, a couple weeks after that conference, Bob gave me a call and said, hey, you came to this conference. I bet you want to learn more. Jamestown wants to be part of this, right? And I said, absolutely, we'd love to learn more. So we had several meetings between AARP volunteers and staff, and then town staff and council members. And in February of this past year, we had a representative from AARP come and speak at our council meeting and talk a little bit more about age-friendly communities and the Livable Communities initiative. And then COVID came along. So everything was sort of like everything else, everything was sort of put on hold for a while. But in October of last year, we picked back up with the idea, and at several council meetings voted to, be part of this initiative, that we wanted Jamestown to start working on that and seeing what we needed to do to become part of these AARP, the Age Friendly Communities Network. And then, we voted on creating a committee for that and appointing members and things like that. And that gets us here to our first meeting. So that's kind of, the momentum has been building for a while. And that's part of the reason I'm extra excited to see all you here today. So I'll let Bob take it from here, and he can tell us what all this is about.
Let me go ahead and unmute first. Again, thank you for the opportunity. Never feel like you have to be in a rush on this journey. You don't get points for being quick. You don't get points for being fancy and trying to outdo a neighbor. The points come from satisfaction that you as the committee and you as the community see in things being accomplished. That's the goal. Don't compare yourself to other communities. You are Jamestown, you want to stay Jamestown, and you want to make Jamestown better. With that kind of in place, just kind of keep in the back of your mind as we go through this short video and a slide presentation, I'm here as a tool. I'm not here to drive this train. I'm not here to tell you what you need to do. I may pipe up and say, man, let's just talk about that a little longer, or I may share some other information with you. But I am just, kind of that person in the background that you probably will forget is even there, but use me as a tool. The first video we're going to show is an introduction to age-friendly communities. It's a part of learning and training. If you decide you want to continue, there are more videos, short videos that you can watch that will kind of show you that process. I didn't want to overwhelm you with a bunch of information on the first night, scare you away. So, Doug, if you could fire up that first video. And this is downloaded from the internet, so we may have some buffering issues. And I'll keep talking. After we finish up with the video, I do have a slide presentation that will focus more on the triad in North Carolina. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the areas to look for projects. And we'll get into some question and answers after that.
And Bob, I assume that you want me to try to show the video?
Yeah, please, please.
I'm going to try, but I'm not 100% sure that our bandwidth will hold it. So we'll try. Give me just 1 second.
That bandwidth comes under a pillar that we're going to talk a little bit about, communications. So you may want to kind of put that in the back pocket is what do we need to do to improve connectivity here in the area? Rebecca, going back to that March or last, when Mark came down to do his presentation, I would have been here, but I was doing a caregiving trip down in Florida.
It happens.
Yes. Doug, do we have audio?
Okay, hang on just one second. I'm not sure that we can do this. That's why I said before we started the meeting, I'm not sure we could do this. So apologies. It's something that we can definitely send out a link to this location and everybody can watch all the 6 videos at their leisure. But I will see, give me just a minute or two to work on it. You guys can keep talking.
Well, while he's working on it, let me give you the link to it. It's aarp.org/age-friendly training. And this will pop up again in one of the later slides that we'll be looking at. But what it is, it's an introduction to the whole process. It's broken down into 6 short videos. I think the shortest one's about 8 minutes, the longest one's about 12 minutes. But it works through the process. The introduction, we talk about 8 pillars or areas of interest in aging in place, things that your projects may fall under or areas that you want to look at. We will talk a little bit in the video about how to go forward with the application. We'll talk a little bit about the 5 steps and this process. AARP is found that it's roughly a 5-year process. From the time you decide that you want to go ahead and pursue to you start talking, pull your application together, start doing some analysis work, figure out what project you want to do, prepare that, present it, roughly 2 years at a time, and then 3 years to accomplish those projects or those goals.
We'll see if we can do this one more time.
Okay.
If I leave mine on, maybe you can hear that. Hang tight with me.
Welcome to the AARP network of age-friendly states and communities, or the network for short. This is the first in a series of modules that will guide you through the process of making your community more age-friendly by joining the network. In this module, we'll talk about why age-friendly communities are so important. We'll explore some of the challenges related to our increasing lifespans and how the network can help solve these problems in your community. And finally, we'll give you an overview of the process for joining the network. Everything from forming a team and assessing your community's needs to creating an action plan to address those needs. First, let's review what the AARP network of age-friendly states and communities is. The network is a voluntary membership program that serves as a framework for state and local leaders to implement changes that make communities more livable for people of all ages. The network is a forum to share national and global research, planning models, and best practices. While most municipalities that join the network are counties, cities, or towns, in 2017, AARP expanded the network to allow states and territories to enroll. So what exactly do we mean by age-friendly? Well, age-friendly communities are places that make it easy for people to live their best lives at every age. They offer diverse housing and transportation choices, safe and accessible public spaces, and ways for people of all ages and abilities to participate in their community. Age-friendly communities also promote health, access to information for all, and opportunities for increased social engagement. It's important to remember that age-friendly communities aren't just for older adults. Surveys conducted by AARP show that older and younger adults share similar concerns. Our survey shows that people of all ages and from every generation value the same community features. Things like well-maintained healthcare facilities, parks, and grocery stores are important to people of all ages. So why are age-friendly communities important? Worldwide, the population is aging, and the United States is no exception. In fact, our population is aging more quickly than you might expect. In 2015, there were almost 46 million people aged 65 or older. By 2030, there will be 73 million people aged 65 or older. By what year do you think older adults will outnumber children in the United States? 2035, 2050? Or do you think that older adults will never outnumber children? By 2035, there will be more people aged 65 years or older in the United States than children. For the first time in U.S. history, older adults will outnumber children. Also, people are living longer. In 1950, the life expectancy for Americans was 68. Today, it is 78. And today's average 10-year-old has a 50% chance of living to 104. AARP survey results show that people over the age of 50 have a strong desire to stay in their home and community as they age, and they're making plans to do so. However, many of our communities weren't designed for an aging population. For example, did you know that in the United States, men typically outlive their ability to safely drive by 6 years, and women by a full decade? And here's a really important thing to note. People can become isolated in places where it is hard to get around, especially after they stop driving. And extended periods of isolation can have devastating effects on physical health. In fact, the health risks of prolonged isolation are equal to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Take a moment to think about your community. Is it easy for people who don't or can't drive to shop, work, and socialize? For those who want to downsize or move to more flexible or accessible housing, are there housing options available in the community? Does your community have ways to help residents of all ages connect and socialize? If you're worried that your community is not built to support the needs of a growing number of aging people, you're not alone. Joining the AARP network of age-friendly states and communities can help your community tackle issues like these. Communities of all sizes can enroll. Our network includes communities with populations of less than 100 people and some with more than 10 million, and membership is free. Let's take a look at the steps involved in joining the network. Joining the network isn't a certification or designation that your community is age-friendly. Rather, it is a public commitment by local leadership to become an age-friendly state or community, one that serves people of all ages. First, identify some likely stakeholders in this work. Look around to see who already has a hand in serving the needs of older adults, or who is shaping the housing and transportation options in your community. Assess what elected officials are saying about the community and identify potential champions for this effort, as well as those who could play an important support role. This is the beginning of your project team. Once you've done that, decide on a convener to lead the work. The convener will be responsible for completing an application to submit to AARP to join the network. The application will collect basic information about your community, and it will identify some of the major challenges and opportunities that are likely to arise. The convener will also be responsible for working with your local government if they are not the lead themselves. A signed letter of commitment from your highest local or state elected official is a requirement to join, and it must accompany and support your application. Once enrolled, you'll need to follow the age-friendly process, which requires your team to conduct an assessment of your community's needs, create an action plan that builds on community strengths and preferences, implement your action plan, periodically review your progress in the action plan, share best practices or your key learnings with other age-friendly communities, write a progress report at the end of year 5. We'll go into more detail about each phase of the process in the following modules. What can you expect at the end of this 5-year process? Well, here are some typical results. Communities in later phases of the process told us 60% achieved a change in public policy. The most frequent policy changes involve improvements in housing, transportation, outdoor spaces and buildings, and health and community services. 34% reported a private sector investment or action had taken place as a result of their age-friendly work. The most frequent investments were related to housing, health and community services, or communication and information. 85% described other successes, including raising awareness of age-friendly issues, increasing collaboration within the community, integrating an age-friendly lens into strategic planning. This concludes Module 1. We hope you have a better understanding of what makes age-friendly work so important and how joining the network can help to create a community that serves people of all ages. In our next module, we'll explore what—
Go ahead and stop it here, Doug. As I've mentioned, that is just a real quick blow through of what age-friendly community through AARP is. It's a free process. There is no certification. It's a pride in you as members of your community are recognizing the importance of aging in place and going back to that lifelong home. Where do you want to spend as many days that you have left in that position? So it's a good process. It's a good journey. It's a wonderful journey. Doug, if you could pull up that PowerPoint, we can go into that next.
Got it?
You got it. Thank you much. I will read bits and pieces of this, but it's kind of redundant, but just an introductory slide. It's a slide that I show if we're not doing a video. So if you can go to next slide. This really is some backup material showing that that America is aging, North Carolina is aging. The numbers are, could be off a little bit, but it really doesn't matter. We're increasing from that 12 to 15% range of 65 plus. Going into another 10 years, we will be roughly 20% of our North Carolina population will be 65 plus. Next slide, please. This is kind of a neat one, and it really shows that crossover from we as 65 plus adults, our quantity of people increasing, and children under 18, that quantity getting smaller. And that crossover is going to be someplace in the early 2030s. And I would imagine 20, 30 years ago, we never thought that we would have more people 65 plus than what we would kids. Unfortunately, that is happening. And median age going from 38 to 43. That's an interesting number. Next slide, please. This information is a little dated, but the percentages are very much the same. Livable communities is part of the World Health Organization. It was started in Europe originally and have moved forward. AARP joined it roughly 2012. If you look at the numbers, the United States doesn't quite have 50% of the communities involved in this initiative. But we have 510 communities at the time, 6 states, 1 territory, and over 100 million people that fall under age-friendly communities. I see a couple of you taking notes. The slides are available to you to pull down and pull and use and share as you wish. So if you just want to do that, just don't be too concerned about pulling down numbers. Next slide, please. Some of my initial discussions on age-friendly communities, people are under the impression that we got to start today. We've got to be done next week or next month or at the end of the calendar year. That's not it. This is not a race. This is, let's do this correctly. Your enrollment process can be very simple. I will show you some of the applications, and it can be very theoretical, very theatrical, excuse me, wrong word. We have a community not too many miles away from us that is probably one of the, I'm going to use the word polished, applications ever submitted. And it's over the top. It doesn't need to be that way. Then I'll show you a couple of very basic ones that are also in the area that are very simple, very straightforward, and still get the job done. Once we submit the enrollment, should come back approved. There's really no reason it will not come back approved. And you conduct your survey and your listening sessions. I don't know if you've done surveys in the last couple, 2-3 years. If you have surveys completed, we can use those. We do not need to say, okay, we've got to have a brand new survey. We can use the information that's out there. You have listening sessions. You may want to pop in a few new listening sessions to make sure you're still on track. Then we sit down and the team puts together an action plan, defining what areas you want to take a look at. And coming up with steps on how to solve that action plan or how to come to your target. Then you implement it, years 3, 4, and 5. And then your 5th year, you go ahead and complete the progress report. Progress report can be completed in 3 years. If you have surprises as you go down this journey, it can be completed in 6 or 7 years. I said, as long as you are making progress toward a goal, you're there as long as you want to be. The encouragement is that once you complete your first project or your first journey, you start on another journey. It's about making your community age friendly, and there's so many opportunities out there to follow and accomplish that. Next slide, please. These are some of the age-friendly communities here in North Carolina. As you can see, it's pretty well spread across the state. Populations going from as low as 11,000 in Archdale, up to Mecklenburg County, million plus. So it's not a one size fits all. It's what your community needs, what your community wants to go forward with. Use the tools. We're going to talk a little bit more about Guilford County as we go into that. Probably two of the best here in the area. Forsyth County is doing a tremendous job with their program, as is Orange County. So it's amazing some of the accomplishments that these teams are pulling together. Next slide, please. Guilford County started their journey. First discussion was in November of 2017. Mike Watson came down from DC, made the presentation. There was roughly 130 people there listening. Everybody was excited. This was a program that we wanted to get into, that the county wanted to get into. Just a good deal. Forsyth County started theirs, and unfortunately, we have opposite results. Forsyth County, it's got a tremendous program. They had a great team that came together. Rebecca, you heard some of the presentations from Forsyth County. They have since then gone from a county program into a standalone program on aging in place. And they had tremendous funding support from the city of Winston, from the industries, from banking. It was just tremendous. Guilford County was a little different. Never really seemed to be able to pull a group of stakeholders together that wanted to take it and make it a program. And because of that, we are in the process of backing away from it being a true county-wide program and saying, okay, Greensboro, are you interested in doing something? High Point, are you interested in doing something? Jamestown, you've shown that you're interested in doing something, and you're far ahead of anyone else in the county because you have this wonderful steering group or committee pulled together of stakeholders. So you've recognized it. So that is changing. The county, Guilford County, will still be an umbrella, if you will, of age-friendly communities, but it will not, should not dictate what Jamestown wants to do. So I think that's great. You know, I question whether the value of doing a county to start with. Forsyth was a little different. They didn't have the large communities that Guilford has. Relationships are a little different, but this is a great move. Everyone, the communities get to do this journey on their own. Next slide, please. These are the programs that are here in the area. Archdale is really getting going with their program. Forsyth has got a great program going on. Winston-Salem was the recipient of an AARP, I really don't want to say award, but let's just say a gift. AARP has, the foundation does a lot of gifts and challenge grants and things like that to communities. And if you look down in the lower right-hand corner, there's a senior exercise area that was put into one of the parks in Winston as a gift from AARP. Unfortunately, it has not had its grand opening yet because of COVID. It all hit about the same time, but it's there. Challenge grants is an opportunity for communities, whether you're part of Livable or not part of Livable, to put a proposal, recommendation, and a request in for funding from the state of North Carolina, and then also from national. So it's an exciting program, something you may want to look into going forward. We talked a little bit about Guilford County. Mount Airy is doing quite well, and they received some funding for a challenge grant. They wanted to extend a walkway in their community, and also add a few benches along that walkway. And AARP thought that was a great idea and funded that program. Funding has been running anywhere from $3 to $5 million a year that's shared across the country. Next slide, please. These are some of the new ones that are going on right now. Rockingham County is in the process of putting together their application. Their intent is to be enrolled by the end of 2021. I mentioned to you that we are looking at doing something different with Guilford County. We have a couple of individuals that are looking at recruiting a volunteer group such as yourselves in Greensboro. Nothing is happening in High Point at this time. And here's just a little bit about what's going on in Jamestown. Council members attended Livable in 2019. First presentation early 2020. I put in a goal for an enrollment at the end of this year. If this is something you want to go forward with, that should not be a challenge. But here again, we're not in a rush. You know, we don't have a calendar. Alamance County, we're just starting to open up conversation in whether it makes sense to do a county program there or we want to break it out into smaller communities. They're a little further down the line. You know, they could be a 2022 enrollment. Next slide, please. One of the things that you saw at the end of the video, we were talking about the next video being 8 domains of livability. And these, if you count the balloons here, there's 9 of them. But so kind of go ahead and take the one called disaster preparedness and resilience and kind of push that off the side for right now. When AARP joined the World Health Organization in pursuing livable communities, after some time, it started to become evident that there were certain areas that programs, projects, concerns, improvements needed to fall into. And these have been called the 8 domains of livability. And if you look at various articles from AARP, you'll see that. First one, we'll start at 12 o'clock high, go clockwise, outdoor spaces and buildings. You know, this basically goes back to parks and recreation. You know, that's an area, and we'll talk later on of the importance. Transportation. You know, transportation going from pedestrian walking to cycling to crosswalks to automobiles. Do you have bus service? You know, it's such a broad range. Housing. Do you have adequate housing? Adequate, you know, being size, pricing. You know, cost of building a home continues to escalate. Cost of living continues to escalate. Falls under that. Social participation. Do you bring groups together to communicate, to talk, to share? With your park across from the firehouse, you've got a great opportunity there to bring groups together. I know the COVID has kind of put a crinkle in that, but you've got a great place to go forward. Respect and social inclusion. You know, that's just speaks for itself. You know, whether you're age issue, whether it's your sexual orientation, whether it is your ethnicity, disability, you know, whatever that is, we are all one, and we need to do everything possible to make sure we are all respected and included. There's nothing worse than being aged and sitting in your house and no one to talk to, no one to communicate. It really takes its toll. Civic participation and employment. Here again, bringing people together. You know, whether it's a parade, whether it's a band concert, whether it's you're pig picking, whatever it might be, bringing those people together. Communications and information. Not everyone has a cell phone. Not everyone has a laptop or a computer. How do you communicate with those people that do not, that do not have the service? Are there newspapers? Are there readings? Is there a vocal sharing of information? Community support health services. Do you feel you have that kind of support in the community? Or do you have to go to downtown High Point or downtown Greensboro? You know, those are the things that you need. You know, what do you need to make that day easier? Here again, we're back to outdoor spaces and buildings. I'm gonna hop over to disaster preparedness and resilience. We here in our area have added this after the tornadoes hit East Greensboro. It was an area that we felt that the communities needed to be more prepared for these kind of occurrences. So we added that. So we've added the 9th pillar. Next slide. here they are, just the 8 domains, just a little more description of what each and every one of those are. You can take a look at those later. They're very much repetitive of what I've shared. Next slide. Housing and social participation. Next slide. Respect, civil participation. Next slide. Communication and health services. As you continue your journey, I think you will find that most of your areas of discussion and areas to address will fall under one of these pillars, one of these domains. Next slide, please. Just some information about me and who I am. Feel free to reach out to me. There's my email address and my mobile. Best way to get me is just to send me a text. To pull down more information on Livable, go to aarp.org/livable. There is a ton of information there to pull down, to read, to share. And then also the videos can be found at .org/age-friendly training. Next slide. As you're thinking about this, one of the things that we have to bring to you is we can share the journeys of hundreds of communities across the country, whether they're your large cities, your large counties, communities that are 2,000 and 3,000 people, or 3,000 and 4,000, 5,000 like yourselves. We can share written documentation. We can share applications. We can share project information. We can bring people in to talk. If you have a question and you want to bring a speaker in from Forsyth County to talk, or if you want to bring someone from DC. I've had the privilege to work with the director of Livable Communities. She is in DC. She was also at the Winston-Salem presentation. She is happy to spend time and talk and share. People, the team that's involved in this journey believe it, live it, love it, and want to share it. Like I said, use me as a tool. Ask, and we will try to bring that information to you. So, are you guys ready? You look a little lost, you look a little confused, you look a little anxious. Remember, it doesn't have to be done tomorrow. It is a journey. It is a journey. Questions? Or you had too much and you just want to go home. You are home. You just want to go out and enjoy the sun.
I do have a question about, and some of this was answered when you mentioned the WHO, but I've seen, age-friendly network and then livable communities. Is livable communities part of the age-friendly network, or what's preferred?
It's so interchangeable.
Okay.
It's so interchangeable. Age-friendly to me really focuses more on that real tight surrounding, your home. When you get into livable communities, it broadens out into your community, but they are interchangeable. Age-friendly, lifelong, there's so many terms. You'll see changes from region to region. You'll see changes from community to community. What term do they want to use? What statement do they want to make?
I know we talked about doing like a situation analysis, understanding what we're doing well now and maybe what we could do better. But then we seem to jump in the process straight to developing an action plan. I'm wondering where we get a shared vision that we are trying to work towards that will help us to prioritize some of these action plans, because we certainly can't turn a knob and be there.
Do you want me to share, or do you want to share amongst yourselves? Like I said, this is your project. You know, I don't want to plant seeds and stories in with you.
Mhm. So yeah, it just seems for us to come up with an action plan that we can defend or sell, that we have to have a clear vision of where we want to go. And so that wasn't just an obvious step in the process that you laid out. So that's what I was wanting to know, is that something that we'll be doing as a group?
Yes, yes. And that's where I went back. You know, most journeys start with your committee or your stakeholders. And you've already started that journey.
Mhm.
Now, that journey, if you need to bring someone in that is an expert in an area, bring that person in. If you need to walk away for a while, that's great. This is flexible. It's the flowing of information. The next step, normally, we'll go ahead and just put a real quick application together, shoot it up to DC and get approval, and you become age-friendly community. You know, that's real simple. The next step is to go ahead and do a survey. You know, what does the community want to do? And if you've got, like I mentioned, if you have a survey that's fairly current, that you feel that there's still some things that you may want to accomplish, or some things that you need to go back and revisit, great, use that survey. Don't
And
spend.
that, if I can jump in real quick,
Yeah.
when you mentioned that before, and this was all part of, you know, what was neat about us kind of coming to this right at this time, is that the town has already been doing some surveys with the comprehensive plan, with the parks plan. And so I would be interested, maybe in this next month, I and anybody else who would want to could maybe focus on pulling together presentations that came out of those surveys, because for both of those, there were presentations at council meetings where the consultants we were working with really tabulated the data and everything, and you know, came up with nice presentations to say what people were interested in. So maybe if we could look at that, maybe at our next meeting, and then see, you know, are there gaps that we would want to fill in? Are there areas that we want a little more detail or to go further into? Because that's what's so great about this, that we really already, I feel like, have some of this information. And so it's not completely starting from scratch, but that there are some areas, you know, I like how Bob mentioned, you might want to, you know, add in a couple of community meetings or, you know, town hall type sessions, whether that be virtual or, you know, if we did that a little later when we could do it, you know, maybe safely outside or something like that. And so then we could just have some general ideas perhaps coming from that of where we want to go into more. And also, I'm sure, you know, when I reached out to you all individually, it's because you all are already doing a lot of this work, or I know that you have expertise in particular areas. And so certainly, you know, maybe bringing some of that, and maybe our next meeting could be more of that kind of discussion of what are the needs that we see, and what are the ones that have kind of come from these recent surveys too.
Yeah, you don't want to spend time redoing things that you've already got, or going for a new look. Take a look at your surveys. Okay, the projects that you've pursued, did they come to the proper completion? Did you learn new things that you want to add to? What is the next step? Each one of you, I'm sure, has a pet project in mind that you feel that you would like to go forward with as far as age friendly is concerned. That's another great place. You know, I said, don't spend a ton of time coming up with projects. You know, I said, most of you have something in mind. If you've done surveys, that information is already there. You just may want to go ahead and talk with your community and say, are we on the right track? Is this the road that we want to go down?
Yeah.
Yes, you definitely want to grab a project or two, go through the process. Don't do the shotgun effect like we've done in Guilford County, thinking that, okay, you know, we can just go ahead and do a shotgun and everything's going to come together. It doesn't work that way. You have to be a little more focused.
I do think it's it is a good idea to take time to benchmark with some people who've done a really great job of it. I know I was over in Orange County at their, I think it's maybe their senior resource center, where they're offering such a range of educational and support opportunities. And you just walk into the facility, see all the activity, and you're just like, wow, this is just a great asset for their community. And so I mean, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So,
Well, you know, I'm glad you said that, because I do a program, it's called Home Fit. And I make a presentation on what we can do to improve our homes to be more of an age-friendly environment.
Mhm.
And that's the question I hear, or the statement I hear so often when we talk about this. We don't know what we don't know.
Mhm.
And it's such an opening statement. You know, it's so true. It just kind of opens your soul up. I don't know what I need to do to be age-friendly. We have, you know, this information is available to share, whether it's applications, presentations, programs, whatever it is. We can bring someone from Orange County in and just spend 10 or 15 minutes to share. You know, that's part of the tool that we're able to bring to you.
I wonder, Bob and Rebecca, if we might want to see what kind of interest everybody has that is participating in this today. You know, if you have a particular interest in the transportation or the social aspect or something like that, that you had mentioned in the 9 circles that you had outlined earlier. And we might just want to go around, and if you have a certain interest, to state it. Would that be helpful and get us started in the direction to see what people are interested in or not? I'm just throwing that out.
It definitely would be helpful, because it shares with the committee, the group of the interests, but it also gets you thinking, how can you tie, you know, with maybe your interest is here and Susan's, your interest is here, but they're close together. You can bring those together into one project. You know, it's no longer this person or this person. We're collaborating in bringing our thoughts together. So it is good to share. Okay,
could we just go around the circle here, or you know, if somebody has an interest?
Rebecca, it's your party.
That's fine. I will say it is 5:01. I think so. Maybe if we could do kind of as a way of wrapping up everybody saying their interest, and then you know, kind of make. We don't have to only think about this when we're all sitting, you know, looking at each other too. So certainly, I know that all of us, after we leave this at some point, whether it be tonight or next week or something, there'll be something that pops up in our head of like, oh, you know, this could be a really good vehicle for this thing, this project, or I've heard, you know, somebody in this other community is doing this work. So certainly, you know, I would encourage folks to email and, you know, jot things down. So when we get together again, we can be talking about that too. And I was going to suggest maybe each of us could take time in the next few weeks and watch those other videos that are on the AARP site. And think more again about what are your personal interests and what does that fit into, and you know, we can really flesh out more of the domains and that kind of thing later too. But yeah, I think we can go around quickly and just say if there is a particular area that really you already know you're all in for, I'd love to hear it.
Well,
I think
can I start? Would that be all right?
We got a couple other questions. Dee, I think you had a question, and so did Tom.
Okay. Well, what I was going to suggest was that I'm interested in cycling, which is transportation, and that certainly is something that I would be interested in helping out in that committee or that subcommittee or however you want to work it out. So that's my 2 cents.
Great. And
Anybody?
Dee, you had your hand up. Were you? Oh, you're on mute. Can you unmute, Dee?
I can now. Okay. First of all, Bob, what size population does a town have to have for a senior resource center?
I don't have that answer. I don't know. I know some of the rural centers in other parts of the state are quite small, like 15 to 20 members. I really can't tell you that. That's more of a question for your county commissioner.
Okay.
And that avenue is to where, because most of those are funded through the county and through the Piedmont Triad Regional Council on Aging. So that is, and here again, that's a question. That's something that can be pursued, but I don't have the answer, but that's where you would need to go for that.
Thank you, sir. My interest lies in having a senior resource center and the disabilities and non-discrimination. So those are my two areas that I know right now. Yes, I am tickled to do anything.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Tom, you tried a couple times. Your turn. You're muted. You're muted.
Thank you. The first thing that I want to ask Bob has to do with either leaning on your experience, success stories, best practices, call it either. But the whole point is that you have been exposed to a lot of communities who have put an outline or a plan together that might help us form and frame our own after we think about things. Those seem to me to be quite important. Again, framing ideas. Right now, my mind is just, I'm overwhelmed with thoughts and ideas. They're disjointed. They're not organized at all. So, I mean, can you give us, or where do we go to get these success stories, or again, best practices? You mentioned one community that is doing it very well here in North Carolina. I don't remember even which one it was, but is there anything in writing that we can take a look at, review, think about, et cetera, et cetera? So that's question number one.
We can share most information from every age-friendly community here in the state. There may be some things on their financials and financial support that they're getting that they may not want to share. But we can also share information across the country. So one word that I really would suggest that you stay with, and that's simplicity. Don't make this tougher than what
I
it
totally
needs
get
to
it,
be.
but pulling things ideas out of the thin air, or missing an idea that would be a great one. I don't know what, a subsidized taxi service, for members. I have no clue what that might be, but I just don't want to miss anything.
Let me dig. There is a magazine that comes out annually. And I'm sorry, the name eludes me, but it will give you some 50, 60, 100 different presentations across the country with colored pictures and normally about a half a page of description of what the project is. what they've done with it. And that's a great place to start because you can put yourself in these communities. Most of these projects are small projects. It may be a
Right.
big city, but it's a small project. They try to stay with simplicity. Let's keep it small. Let's get some good results. Let's get that good, warm feeling of what we're doing.
Totally
Well,
great.
I'll dig that out and get that to you.
Great. Give it to Rebecca. Are you the kind of the official leader of this little group?
There's not really an official leader, so you all can scrap amongst yourselves for who the official leader can be. But certainly, Matt and I and Katie also at Town Hall are kind of working together to help facilitate the behind the scenes type stuff.
But I think there
Yeah,
needs to be.
if you wanted to get something to us, either me or drop it off at Town Hall and Matt or Katie could get it, we can help disseminate too. And there are also, I think a lot of you already have these. There's a series of these, Tom, you're shaking your head. We can make sure we can do this over email, and I can, Bob and I can work together to get those out to you too. So that's been very helpful.
Yeah, but I mean, I can't stress every effective committee and group I've ever worked on in my life, which has been a lot, has had a leader. I mean, somebody that you go to, even if all that leader does is say, ask John, don't ask me. Something we need that. And so, I mean, I point that out to you. As far as so I'll move on.
You have a group here of 7, 8, 9 people, whatever you end up with. Pick a leader, pick a co-leader, change month to month, whatever, have a contact. Find somebody amongst yourselves. It really should not be your town leaders. You kind of paint a funky picture if you have one of your town leaders leading this group. It's better for someone from the community to kind of lead, at least be the focal point in that phase.
May I offer the observation that most of us don't know the others, so that's going to be a little bit challenging.
But you're going to get to know get to know each other very well.
But
here's that magazine I was telling you about now.
Even the video reminds us we're aging every day, and this is happening rapidly. Bob has told us there's no hurry to do this, so we'll take our time and do it right. And I agree, there will be a point person, but and this has arisen in a kind of odd way because from the presentations and things that I've heard, a lot of times it is community members who initially get this initiative together. So this came kind of in an odd way. We're sort of doing it backwards, so we're trying to be mindful of that. But certainly we'll get together and we'll get all the hierarchy that you want, Tom. It'll be good.
Well, no, it just needs to be a go-to. I mean, there just does. I have no preference as far as the committee, such as transportation or anything like that at this time. I don't even remember all 9 of them, so I'm going to pass on that for the time being.
Can I make a suggestion? I don't know, and I wrote away for the books that AARP publishes, and they are excellent. And they have several of let me just name them: one community listening session tool, housing workbook, transportation, health services and community support, and economic development. And these are wonderful resources. I mean, if you order them, they are free, and I think you'll find them very, very helpful. But anyway, I would suggest that we could look at those and maybe work from those workbooks. I mean, they're very practical. They have suggestions. on how to organize things, how to, if you're interested in housing, for instance, here's the workbook on housing, and health services. I think, Dee, you had been talking a little bit about something like that. And economic development, they really are very good. So that's just my 2 cents.
Appreciate that. We combine that with the surveys that the town council has. I mean, that gives us, anyway, a basis for thinking about things. Obviously, you put them in comparison with your own experiences here in town. I mean, but very good. Thank you.
Passion, whatever the passion is, follow the passion.
All right, I guess I've
Suzanne,
done talking. I'll be quiet.
Okay, a couple things. One, if we could get maybe some success stories from towns that are of similar size to Jamestown. It's going to be hard for me to compare myself to much smaller, much larger. I just think that might be a good start for me. I won't be quite as overwhelmed if you have some of those. I think we need bike lanes also, because I'm concerned about pedestrians, because a lot of times my mother will not walk on the walkways because of the people riding bicycles on the walkways.
Yeah.
So I think that it's not a safe thing for the two to be on the same place. So I think we do need to offer a place for bicycles to be safe, and cyclists and walkers. And I don't know what the jurisdiction is, but I walk a lot across from the golf course there across the bridge. I don't know who is in charge of that, but I would like to see maybe some organization of groups walking so you can walk together, because some people do not have somebody they can grab, especially if they're retired and don't have somebody else who can walk with them, to walk maybe in groups or something like that, and maybe have cameras out there in the parking lot, because I know there's some concerns for safety out there in that parking lot. And I don't know if we have that, but I would love to see something like that. And maybe a rubber or soft surface track, so people as they're aging or rehabbing have somewhere they can walk that's safe, that has lighting, something like that. So I'm also kind of on the getting groups of people together. Before, when I go to the Y, even the groups there were not for beginners or for older people, like the yoga. You couldn't get into something that was drawing people who were trying to get active and get in shape, and the older people were a little afraid they wouldn't keep up. So maybe I'm sort of in line with that area, I think.
Laura or Pam?
I would, yeah. So I would agree. I would say parks and recreation. So it looks like, keeping active in the community. But one of the things that crossed my mind is, for a livable community, what really looks like a livable community as it relates to age. I know that 55 and older communities don't necessarily, or maybe are not necessarily interested in some of the resources or even the needs that maybe a community of people who are 62 and up. So I found that sometimes those needs and resources are different as it varies. With ages, there are some 55 and older communities all over the country, but they actually have things that are for the younger, I guess maybe lean towards the younger side of approaching the senior age versus someone who's in their mid 60s. So that is something that I really want to look at, because we want to make sure that the resources and the needs are really going to be worth the work and putting into the community.
I think you'll find, when you get a little deeper into this, a lot of the needs for an aging population can very easily support the younger population.
Okay.
I was the same thing with you until I started my journey.
Right.
And we get time, I'll share some stories as to why, I think both ends of that age spectrum do come together.
Okay.
You're right. You'll find the journey interesting when we get to it.
Okay.
Laura.
I guess I have two areas of particular interest. From the support group for caregivers, I think there is a huge need for economical respite care. A lot of people who are at the lower incomes are caring 24/7 for those with disabilities, or in my case, the direct relationship was the Alzheimer's or dementia patients. And the network for support is not close to Jamestown. And so somehow creating the opportunity for these people to get a break at an economic level. And then getting back to what Dee said is, I think that a local thriving senior center that we're leveraging other parts of our community, like the senior resources of Guilford County, which I think offers some wonderful programs. Alzheimer's Association, who offers great support group training and education programs. The Piedmont Triad Center for Aging, they have some wonderful programs. But if we could offer a center that we can leverage all those organizations, but not only that, but also the continuing education and hands-on crafting or arts programs, so that it's something that you have people coming and going for multiple ages. I think that would really be a draw for our community. I think Dee has something to add. You got to unmute though.
Dee, you're muted.
Whoops. Mine's in the upper right corner, Dee. Like there's a little button that says mute that if you hit. There you go.
Thank you, dear. I am 100% in agreement with you, and I will partner with you because I need the respite from caring for my mom. And she needs somewhere she can go to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm already working on getting, I'm going to admit it, Meals on Wheels.
Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful program.
Great program. Great program.
We are, Guilford County has the highest rate of food insecurity in all of North Carolina.
Well, High Point, not too long ago, was the highest in the country.
Correct, sir. And I've been told that we could be waiting 6 months before we get a meal.
Yep.
So these are passions of mine.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good going to bed hungry.
No, I'm sure it doesn't. See, these are the questions and the stories that creates the journey that you're going to take. I can't tell you what that journey is going to be, but I can almost guarantee that you will be frustrated through the journey. When the journey's ended, you will find extreme pleasure and satisfaction by what you have been able to accomplish.
Hey, this is Matthew. I'm going to jump in. I have to put the mask on. We have some visitors in my office, but just to that end, I know that Rebecca and the town manager and the town clerk and I will work together to solidify some of the processes here. But did we want to set a time and a date for the next meeting? I know we could probably take a couple of weeks or so to do 2 or 3 weeks to do this. I'm just going to throw out there March the 23rd. it's a 1 month from today as a possible date. Does that sound something reasonable? And we could probably still meet with Zoom if that's okay with everybody.
Does 4 o'clock work for everyone?
Looks like everybody's sort of nodding that 4 o'clock works without having everybody having to unmute and jump in. We do mute just because we get a little bit of feedback and stuff, and so it makes it a little cleaner on the audio. Just have people muted. But I will go ahead and we'll set a meeting. Probably what you'll see is most of the correspondence will come from Katie Weiner, our town clerk. And then we will get that Zoom meeting set up for you and send you out a reminder a little closer to the time frame. But certainly, thank you to Bob and Rebecca for getting us going. And it looks like we have a little bit of work to do. And thank you to everybody for joining us today. Rebecca, do you want to have some closing comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for participating, and Bob, thank you for everything that you have shared and for being such a fantastic resource for us. We're really excited to get going, as you can tell. And thank you, everybody, for sharing your passions. And I think, we can really take this time the next month. Again, you can watch those videos. Let me reach out to us about, like WID has shown us the paperwork, these great folders or brochures.
Road livability.
So there's the whole set that we can get out to you and that kind of thing. And yeah, I think it's great. Reach out to each other as well. If you get ideas or particular things, if you say, Tom, something you mentioned really made me think I'd be interested in this, or Pam, I'm also, a little concerned about how are we going to make sure that what we're working on is really going to affect folks from a range of ages and that kind of thing. And I think we can talk informally, but then also come back to the next meeting kind of refreshed and more refined as to what we want to get done here. So I'm excited. Thank you all.
Okay,
Tom,
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay.
I think Tom wanted to say something.
I just want to ask for Rebecca or Matthew, can you give us contact information for the other people on this call?
Yes, we can certainly do that. We will do a little directory and get that sent out to you, everybody.
I just want to say I already have the books. I ordered them, so you don't need to get them for me, just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. I have the books, obviously.
Yeah, there's weeks and months of reading on the Livable website. Stories and just it's a tremendous resource. And it's free. It's free.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Hope you have
Have a great evening.
Thank you.